Thank you. I can't tell you all how excited I am, honored to be chosen as the next coach for the University of Utah. I would like to start off by thanking President Young for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this team, and obviously Dr. Chris Hill, the relationship that we've forged here recently. I think having belief and faith in somebody is a pretty powerful thing, and I'm here to tell you that the opportunity given to me means an awful lot to me, and I understand the challenges that lie ahead. Speaking of belief, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my family who's here. My wife, Jan, in the front, and 5 children who we refer to as our poker term is our full house, 3 jacks and 2 queens. And her mom and dad are here, Jim and Barb as well. And I can tell you that we're all so excited to be in a position where we can call Utah our home. We look forward to spending many years here. This place is special. Look around. When I played here for the Utah Jazz, I knew it was special. It was one of the closest places to my home at Montana. I got in the car when the season started. I was able to drive 7 hours down the road, and here I was. It reminds me very much of home. The campus, 29,000 students, is remarkable. 190-degree options. And as I spoke with Chris and President Young, there's really no options here that aren't available for student athletes to get their degrees. I know when I was at the University of Montana, whenever we were recruiting a person, if they wanted to be an engineer, for example, we immediately had to scratch them off the list because that wasn't an option. So the excitement here with being back in a campus setting, having the opportunities for student athletes, this city, certainly the tradition that's been here is gigantic, and moving into the Pac-12 is a very, very bright time that we have to look forward to. I want you to understand what my goal is. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do in restoring the pride, but I think if I put my cliff notes down, that would be it. I want to get the pride back at the University of Utah in the basketball program. It's not going to be an easy thing to do, and there's really no little things. There's a lot of big things. I made the comparison that it's a little bit like raising a family. It takes a village to raise a family, to raise children. I think the same thing needs to happen with this program. But we're looking at some of the student athletes over here on my left, who I look forward. I haven't had a chance to meet a lot of them, but I look forward to meeting with them soon. And it is so bright here. I think about the opportunities that they have, the resources available, the various programs to help them succeed. But what we need from them, I need to find 15 guys, 13 on scholarship, 15 total, that are willing to make some great sacrifices. If you've been involved with college athletics, you know that being a student athlete is not an easy thing. And there's a lot of demands on time and energy that we're going to be asking them. And I can tell them that they're going to have a group of coaches at their disposal that are going to get the absolute most out of them on the floor, maximize their potential. They're going to obviously have a faculty that's set up, training staff, strength and conditioning coaches, everything that they need. If they bring that passion and commitment, I'm confident that we can get to a place that we'll all be very proud of. I did a little Google search on the internet about leadership, and there were, I think, 1.5 million hits, options that I could look at. I am going to be asked to be the leader of this program, and I look forward to it. A lot of different opinions, definitions, and I wanted to share 4 that particularly stood out to me, and this is what I'm going to ask of our players from time to time, and I think this is what you can expect from me. Number 1 is getting people to think, believe, see, or do what they may not have been able to do without you. That's pretty powerful leadership. It usually comes in some sort of sacrifice. They're going to have to pay the price, as I mentioned before. It's not always going to be easy. Certainly there's going to be some tough love. I can relate to raising children, and you can't tell them what they want to hear all the time. You have to use some tough love, and I can do that with these players. One of the other things, definitions of leadership, is getting people to buy into something that is far bigger than themselves. This university and this basketball program has so much history, tradition. It isn't about me, and it isn't about you guys as individuals, but it's about a lot of the people before us that were here, coaches, players. I throw out some names: Andre Miller, Danny Vrains, I think is here, Keith Van Horn, Bogut, Jensen. Those are more recognizable names. Certainly Rick Majerus had an awful lot to do with the success here. But it's going to be us. It's not going to be me. It's going to be us, and it's going to be we. I'm happy to be a part of we. Everything that I do is going to be with the thought of the program in mind and with the thought of the university in mind. I'll take a back seat. As I said, I'm happy to be part of we, and I look forward to meeting with our players here shortly after this meeting and finding out who is with me on wanting to be a part of we. I think that's very important. Here's another one. Leadership, asking people to give a little bit more of themselves than they thought they were capable of giving. Okay, everybody in this room wants to win. We all want to win. We all have the will to win. But what is infinitely more rare is having the will to prepare to win and putting in the kind of work that's necessary. Extra shots in the gym, weightlifting, conditioning, how you take care of your bodies. I've been afforded the opportunity to be around some pretty good players. The other day we played the Lakers in New Jersey, and I was at the arena quite early, as it was my game preparation. I had to spend some time, and I walked into the arena at maybe 2 in the afternoon, and I saw Kobe Bryant there shooting a bunch of jump shots in the middle of the day, and I told a couple other guys on our staff, this is going to be a tough night for the Nets, because that kind of focus. And I don't know, the work ethic amongst our team right now, but I can tell you, if you want to succeed and you want to get to that point, it takes a great deal of sacrifice. My last definition of leadership, and this is really at the end of the day why I'm here, gives me goosebumps, but being a positive role model in hopes of having a lasting effect on a person's life. That's what it's all about. I ran into a former player of mine, a walk-on from Georgia, who walked on from Atlanta to the University of Montana. I hadn't seen him probably in 5 years, but I ran into him at the national championship game in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The University of Montana was playing in that game. We ran into each other at the concession stand, and he came up to me, and what he told me about his experience at Montana for 2 years and the kind of impact I had on him had such an effect on me. And that's what's so encouraging and so enticing for me to get back in the college arena. I want to be a part of that. That's probably the most important. I know I can coach basketball. A lot of times there's frustration in the NBA with not being able to be a role model. And I know in this setting, this environment, I'll certainly be able to do that. Now, I'm not naive enough to stand up here and think I'm going to be able to tell you about my basketball philosophy, but I put the pencil, figured out how many games I've been involved with as a player since college started, and it's probably 1,500 or 1,600 games that I've either played in or coached. And obviously talent makes a huge difference, and trust me, we're going to recruit, we're going to get the talent necessary to compete at this level, but it's really, a lot of times, it's a lot simpler than we want to make it. And I have found 3 elements that lead to success. And the very first one, I'm sure everybody in the room knows, if 2 teams are equally talented, the team wins that plays the hardest and that maybe has a little bit more drive, you can say has a bigger heart, something special inside them. Maybe they're the underdog. And I can tell you that work ethic is something that can be learned and developed, and our guys, the University of Utah men's basketball team, My goal is that we won't be outplayed. There won't be a team that outworks us very often. That's number one. The other element is playing smart, not making mistakes, executing. We'll spend an awful lot of time on executing our offensive and defensive game plans. We'll trust each other. We'll take good shots. You can still execute, but you have to make shots. At the end of the day, we're going to have to make shots. But playing smart is going to be a big part of it. The last thing is playing together. I'm a big believer in synergy and the ability of the masses to be able to get something done a lot higher level than an individual. I mean, the prime example to me, and I've used this before, if you can bench press 100 pounds by yourself and a teammate can bench press 100 pounds by yourself, you would think that together you could get on a bench press and bench 200 pounds. Well, physics says that you can do more than that. That's one example of doing things together. Our guys will play together. We're going to have people that are willing to maybe pass up what might be considered a good shot to get a teammate an excellent shot. We're going to have somebody that's willing to rotate over when you're beat defensively to take a charge and help a teammate out. We will do these things. So we will play hard. That's a guarantee. We'll play smart and we'll play together. And I want to remind us that it's we and not me. Finally, I want everybody to know in the room how fortunate I am to have this opportunity. I've talked about the previous coaches that have been here, the proud tradition that's been here. And I know Dr. Hill's interviewed a lot of great coaches. The opportunity that I have and the situation that I have is a great one. And I can tell you all that once the work begins, once the press conference and some of this stuff is over with, that I'm going to absolutely pour my heart and soul into this program, and we're going to get the basketball program back to a position where we can all be very proud. But again, it takes a village of people, and a lot of people in this room can certainly help out. It is a great day to be a Ute, as Dr. Hill said, and I'm very happy to be the coach. Our family looks very much forward to being a part of this community too. Thank you very much.
Okay, this time we'll open up for questions for President Young, Dr. Chris Hill, or Coach K. I can't believe we don't have one question out.
Defensive philosophy? Well, it's not going to be one or the. It's not going to necessarily be one or the other. Certainly, you can't be a zone defensive team if you don't know how to play man-to-man. So when we start first practice, it's going to be a lot of man-to-man principles. But I love being able to throw a curveball at the opposition, changing defenses. There'll be times when we, if we score, we'll come back in a zone when we know we can get back. And maybe if we don't score, we're going to come back in a man-to-man. So it'll be fun. We'll have 1-3-1 half-court traps. We'll be getting turnovers, but we're not going to be vanilla and
whole potpourri, I guess.
Whole potpourri, buddy. You got it. We're going to get some. We're going to get some floor burns and some bloody noses while we're playing defense too.
Okay, questions from the media. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, where do you anticipate doing most of your recruiting, and do you think you'll be able to get top 100 type players to come to Utah?
Well, I think to answer the first part of your question, we need to place a lot of focus on the state of Utah. There's tremendous basketball talent that comes out of here. So, I need to hire a staff, certainly one person, if not more, that's real familiar with the state. And then the other element that I'd like to get into is internationally. I think there's an awful lot of kids abroad. I know a number of people overseas from being involved with them that want to help us, and they want to send people away to school that they know they can trust the situation and be around a coach that cares about them because they're a long way from home. There's no doubt in my mind that we can get top 100 players. I think the institution, as I talked about, sells itself, the tradition that's been here. And, we're basically now we're in the Pac-12, which is going to be the top league in the West Coast and one of the top 6 leagues in the country. And I'm not afraid to go into anybody's home this is a pretty good product to try to sell. And I won't be intimidated by top programs, and we're certainly going to make a run for some of the top players in the country.
Okay, Jason back there.
Larry, when do you anticipate having a staff in place?
Well, I called a few guys this morning, and it's first priority in my mind that we need to do. I mean, I want to spend some time with the players, get out on the floor with the players, have some individual meetings with them, and then beyond that, it's finding a staff. And I don't think I'm surprising anybody when I tell you that there's a lot of people that are interested in coming here. And I'm not saying for my sake, but from the program's sake. A lot of people want to be a part of what's going on here and the positives. So I don't think there's going to be a shortage of candidates. And I'm not going to rush into anything, but we're going to find some guys, number one, that are quality coaches that can teach not just basketball, but some of the life skills. And we need some recruiters. We need to get guys that are out on the road that have done it with the contacts and get this thing rolling.
Any more questions for the media? Yes, Kurt?
Chris, can you discuss what established criteria you had for this hire and how Larry fits that?
Well, I think what I wanted, first of all, is somebody with great leadership skills, somebody that has competed at the highest level, and has also done has some success as a Division I coach.
Larry,
Brad?
what was your experience with Jerry Sloan, and did you take anything away from just 1 year you were playing for him?
Oh, my year playing for Coach Sloan was actually one of my highlights in terms of being a part of this team, being able to play with Stockton and Malone in that era. And, Jerry was unbelievable. I think we all know to a person in this room what he brought to the table. Wasn't a man of a lot of words, but you knew you had to play really hard. He had his opinions on things, and I absolutely loved my time here. And I spent maybe the last 4 or 5 years of my playing career with the number of knee injuries, and I was always having a hard time, as you're aware, of staying healthy. And so my mind was always thinking about coaching, making that transition. And I was really fortunate. Jerry was one of the coaches that I played for that I wasn't just watching as far as the coach-player relationship, but I was kind of watching how he dealt with people. And certainly I learned an awful lot from him and have a great deal of respect for him.
Okay, back there to Jason.
Larry, obviously coming to the state, you have to deal with the missionary program. How familiar are you with that, and how different does that make this type of a job as opposed to others?
Well, it's something that I need to be educated about it for sure. But I've known a number of players that have gone on missions. I think Stu Morrill up at Utah State, I've talked to him about it extensively. And, I love the idea of a player being interested in going on a mission and coming back after spending 2 years. I think there's a lot of positives with the mission in terms of growing up, learning a little bit about yourself, spending some time in an environment that's out of your comfort zone. And if we can get basketball players that want to be a part of Utah basketball, that want to go on a mission, by all means go and do it, because when you come back, I think you're going to be more mature and maybe even more physically able to help the program. So, I'm open, and it's one of the areas that I want to come to a better understanding about and make sure that it's an understood part of the program for me.
Okay, Dirk.
Coach, after you left Montana for the NBA, what's drawn you back to college ball? Why did you want to get back in college ball after being in the NBA for a couple of years?
Well, I'm really fortunate to be able to have done both. And there was a time when I left the University of Montana, and some people even said, you know what, you might be in a situation where you don't get a chance to come back to college. I followed my heart, and there was a little bit of passion maybe that was missing with me staying at Montana. There were some circumstances that I'd rather not get into. But making that move to Milwaukee and having an opportunity as an assistant and a head coach in the NBA, all of a sudden now I've got both points of reference to make that decision. And the thing that I miss more than anything is being around young men that are still developing and growing, as I said, with being a role model and being a part of that. That's probably the biggest thing. There's nothing like, just driving in here this morning, there's nothing like being on a campus. And I said in the media earlier this week, it's kind of feeling the pulse of the campus and the excitement of it. That's lacking at the NBA level. The other thing is I love practice. When you have something that's broken in college, you can actually fix it because you've got 2, 3, 4 days to fix it. If you've got a bad team that has a lot of things broken in the NBA, you just stay bad for a long time because you don't have a chance to practice. We played 17 games last month in New Jersey. So if you do the math on that one, and then you've got a day off, you certainly can't practice because you've got 80 of your guys need to rest. So that was always really frustrating for me.
One last thing I was going to ask you about going to the Pac-12 and the challenges they had. You're confident this program can make that transition successful?
Oh, I'm confident it can. Yeah. Again, I'm one of the biggest believers, but I'm not a big fan of the talk and saying it's going to happen. I can't wait for this to be over, this press conference, so that we can visit with the players. We can actually start working on the steps that it's going to take to get it turned around. But I've got all the faith in the world that we can compete regionally, we can compete nationally. Definitely.
Steve?
Chris, I was wondering if you talked to Andrew Bogut about Larry and what you care to share with us if you did.
Do I have to stay on my basic thing that you guys get sick of? I really don't want to share who I talked, but I did talk to Andrew.
Coach, I just wanted to ask you mentioned Jerry Sloan. Besides Jerry Sloan, who would you say had the biggest impact in your life, either as a young man or as a professional athlete?
Are you speaking coach-wise? Coach, I was really fortunate. There's actually one of the coaches in the Pac-12 that I'll get to coach against now that I played for at Montana was Mike Montgomery. I think he's a fabulous coach, one of the best coaches I've played for. And again, Mike, it wasn't always basketball, but it was life lessons. Spoke to him this morning. And so that's one of the people that's really high on my list. I think the year that I spent with the Bulls playing for Phil Jackson was very enlightening, what took place there. And maybe more than anything, besides coaches, is just being around professional players and seeing the dedication and the kind. I think we watch NBA basketball and you just assume that they were, they had all these gifts and that's why they're on TV. But when you see what some real professionals do behind the scenes, the way they prepare themselves, the way they take care of themselves, and their work ethic, then to me that's instrumental stuff, and it's very important in sharing with these guys what it's going to take to get to the next level.
Get back there.
Coach, you're inheriting a dwindling fan base. Aside from winning on the court, what do you plan on doing to build up the local fan base?
Well, to take a line out of the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And that's what I was talking about, building the program. It's going to take a lot of different facets. There aren't going to be any little things or any shortcuts. But at the end of the day, fans want to come and watch winning basketball, hard-nosed basketball. So for me, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse. If I'm thinking about how we're going to fill up the arena, Chris, let's discount the tickets and let's give away. People want to win. And so restoring some of that pride and putting a product on the floor that people can be excited about watching is more important to me. And I went through that at Montana, dwindling attendance, and it never scared me off. You go out and play, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, there's 500 more at this game, and then the next couple weeks there was another 500, and people get interested, and next thing you know, hopefully there's a lot of red in that stadium.
Okay, Jim?
Larry, seems like a lot of good coaches have come from the Big Sky Conference. You mentioned Mike Montgomery. What is it about the Big Sky? Is it the grind? What is it that makes successful coaches?
Well, I really think you can go back to Judd Heathcote, he was at Montana, was one of the first guys. What do you do as a coach? You do your thing, and you've got 4 assistants underneath you, and they're paying attention. And then all of a sudden, Judd goes to Michigan State, and his assistants start sprouting up all over, and then that tree grows. There was a year I was at Montana. We were in the NCAA tournament. Utah State with Stu Morrill was in the NCAA tournament. Blaine Taylor at Old Dominion, Montgomery. I mean, there were like 5 former Montana guys in the tournament. And so, I think you're learning a pretty positive way to play the game of basketball. There's some good leadership that started years ago with the likes of Judd Heathcote. But, the grind is no different in the Big Sky than it is anywhere else. You just have maybe a little different set of headaches. But, basketball is basketball. But I think it really goes back to some of that lineage with great coaches early on.
Okay, Leah, go ahead.
Coach, did your experience in Milwaukee, how will that affect how you coach now?
No, that's a great question. It really isn't going to change the way I coached. The lesson I learned from Milwaukee, and I kind of veered away from what I knew was right. And if anybody tells you that professional players need to be treated different than college players, they're crazy. And that's maybe what I kind of sold myself out a little bit and changed the way that I coached. At the same time, as I mentioned, it's very frustrating not being able to practice. If you're losing games in the NBA, you can't fix it. But if you're winning them, then you just keep rolling. So I'm just looking forward to getting in an environment where we can practice and we can get things rolling and fix what's broken. But anytime you deal with adversity and you lose a job, as I did in Milwaukee, I think it makes you take a look at yourself, and sometimes it almost introduces you to yourself and reminds you of what's really important and what you need to stay true to.